I'm waiting for marriage. It's true. I'm waiting for marriage to go on a first date. I just figure, a first date is such a nerve wracking thing that you have to be with someone you really trust, someone you feel really comfortable with, right? Anything to ease the nerves, all the tingling around the body. I figure who better to go with than my wife? I would figure I'd feel pretty comfortable with my wife, right? I feel like she'd be the perfect person to go on a first date with. So yeah, I'm waiting till marriage to go on my first date. It's true. It logically makes sense. I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, everyone's going on these first dates with just random people. No, you got to go on a first date, eliminate any random things that could happen. You got to go with someone you know really well, right? You don't want to go with a new person. Obviously, it's easier to get the whole first aspect of the first date. The first half of first date is first. You got to go with someone for the first time. It makes sense. But the date part, oh my God, so nervous, so nerve wracking, right? That's a toss up. So I figure, let's eliminate as much randomness as possible. Let's try to control this experiment and go with someone I trust, someone I love, even my wife. And so, yes, I will be the first to say it. Gauruv Virk is waiting till marriage to go on his first date. It's true. And you can probably see, oh, a guy that talks in third person, how's he not already been on a first date? I know, it's hard to believe. But, I already have a podcast, right? That's all you really need. That's all a date is. Just talking at someone like they're a wall. That's what you guys are. That's what this camera is. It's a one-way dialogue. Some might call it a monologue, but by calling it a dialogue, I can lie to myself and say we're both equally doing our part here. You ever do that? You talk to someone and they're like, this was great. This is really great talking with you. And I'm like, well, it was more like talking at me, huh? Right? Because, man, that was a really good conversation. That was good. I'm like, yeah, isn't a conversation like a two-way street? I feel like there was a lot of one way, not a lot of time to overtake someone. It was just a big one-lane, one-way road, But they're like, no, that was great. I really felt the back and forth there. I'm like, if there was back and forth, that's a car crash right there. We can only go forward with you in the driver's seat. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. My wife and I, we are going to be, we have a save a date on the fridge for our first date. It's true. Oh man. It's got to be hard, right? To be a guy with a podcast and like date. Because then you can't like post on your social media at all, because then if they, look at your social media, they'll be like, uh-oh, this guy has a podcast. There's nothing worse in today's world than a guy with a podcast. And you might be like, well, Garv, that's what you... No, I know what I am. I know what I am. The hyper level of self-awareness I have of who I am is why I'm so sad. I'm very well aware of what this is, okay? That's why I'm the way I am. That's why I have the mental state I do. Because I see what's going on. I know what this is. But I wish everyone was so self-aware, right? Because I saw this post I don't even know where I saw it, but it was on social media somewhere. And this woman ate a balut. Now, if you don't know what a balut is, it is a fertilized developing egg embryo. It's typically found, I believe, in southern China and like Southeast Asia. And it's fertilized developing egg embryo. And it's typically of a mallard, a duck, and you just eat this thing. And I remember this lady took a bite of balut and she was eating it, the street vendor that she got it from. And he was like, how is it? She was like, oh, it's good. It's good. And then she said, I don't know why people are scared of this. It's actually really good. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, sure, it's good. I believe you. But you gotta admit, it's so obvious why people are scared of it. It's so obvious why people are put off by it. It makes sense that it's so weird. It doesn't make sense that it is weird. But the fact that people are like, that's weird, it makes sense, right? I just didn't understand it. Did she say this to try to trick herself? Did she say it to make the vendor feel better? Did she say this idea of, oh no, this is actually very normal? Did she do that for her own sake, for her audience sake, for the street vendor guy's sake? I don't know. I don't know why she was doing it. I really hope that she didn't say that because she lacks self-awareness. That would be really upsetting. because I couldn't believe a world in which she would say, man, I don't get why people think this is weird. Because it's so fucking obvious. It's a fertilized duck embryo. Are you fucking kidding me? On paper, that's the craziest thing in the world. And then in actuality, in practice, when you look at that fucking thing in real life, it's even weirder. You look at balut, like the idea is like, oh, maybe I could stomach that. And then you look at that shit and you're like, oh, no. Uncle, I tap out. What the fuck? I'm not going to put that in my mouth, let alone chew it and then swallow that shit. Bro. What? What is it? There's something I saw the other day. Oh, yeah. I think if you refrigerate pasta at a certain temperature, it turns a little green. It's not a big deal. It's essentially a patina on these pasta. It's really okay. I think it's oxidizing the pasta, and it turns a little green. There's no health adverse effects in the health department. It's just a little bit of a change of display, right? It's really just a cosmetic thing. You know, if you can get over that hump, you got yourself pasta. That's okay. Totally okay. But then you look at balut, you know? Look at the color of that shit, and you're like, what the fuck? How the fuck? You know? But then, I look at green pasta, and even then I'm like, did Dr. Seuss teach us nothing? Should I be eating this? And that feels weird to eat, and it's completely fine. But then balut, you know? It looks weird to eat. And actually, it is completely fine too. So I guess I'm just, what am I saying? Am I saying this person's right? Am I wrong in this situation? That's impossible. I'm a guy with a podcast. I can't be wrong. Everyone knows that. This mic gives me special powers. It means everything I say, everything that comes out of this little fucking hole, it's correct. It's 100% true. I would never make anything up. I would never lie. That's impossible. And I do know everything. It is true. A lot of people, they think, oh, he went to college. Maybe he only knows things about the things he studied. No, not even because of college. Just because of this microphone, I do know everything in the fucking world. I feel like sometimes that leaves people's minds, but it's true. It's 100% true. I know everything in the world. And you can believe me because I know everything. So you can trust that that is a fucking fact, that I do know everything. But what I don't know, I guess, is why would this person say this? Why would someone try balut and say, I don't get it. Why is this weird? It's so fucking obvious, right? Like, I think, and this is what I suspect, and this is maybe why I pounced on her, is that she's doing it to make herself look cool. I don't understand it. Sometimes people do this thing. You ever see this? It really makes me feel weird. It's okay because it happens so often. That doesn't make it okay. I could think of very prominent examples of where a thing happened a lot and it's not okay. I can think of a prominent example of things that happen a lot today that are not okay. It's a lot of things. You learn that. You see that as an adult, you know, you get a phone. You have a phone? Sometimes they give you news on your phone and you see a lot of stuff on the news. And you're like, oh, well, this is happening a lot and it's not good. But it still happens, you know? But I don't understand this, these people, I don't like them. It's not that I don't like them. I don't like them. Man, I didn't really beat around the bush on that one, did I? No, this doesn't make me completely deterred, be deterred by someone or perturbed or not put off by someone completely. It's just something that I'm like, that sucks that they're that way. It's the people that, you know, when they like eat something hot, they do the thing where they're like, oh, that's not hot at all. I'm like, you fuck. You think everyone's mouth is the same? Of course not. What's hot to you is not hot to someone else, which is, or like not hot to you is hot to someone else. And then something that's hot to you is not hot to someone. There's always a bigger fish, okay? Did Star Wars teach us nothing? But I fucking hate those people. The people that make like little things or like things that different people handle differently. They make it seem like, oh, that's not a big deal. Horror movies, great example. Way to offer that one up. Horror movies are a great example because, you know, you have that friend that's like, ooh, it's the Halloween's coming around. Do you want to see this horror movie? And I'm like, no, I don't like horror movies. And they're like, what? How do you not like horror movies? They're not even scary. They're not scary. You know, You know all that stuff's made up, right? You think it's real? No, I fucking know it's not real. All right? Obviously. As someone that creates cinema every week, I know all of this is manufactured. That's right. This is a production. Every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But I know horror movies aren't real. I get it. It logically makes sense. But I don't like them. They're gross. They're weird. They're not enjoyable. I don't want to spend my time or money or both on that fucking shit. But then they always come back with the same argument. Well, it's not scary to me, so it shouldn't be scary to you. I'm like, is that really how you fucking think the world works? Oh, yeah, no, I eat the food and I am not breaking a sweat at all. You're a fucking loser because I see little sweat droplets on your head. Haha. In this thing we call life, I'm better than you. And it's not just because I have a podcast. It's because I can put something on my mouth and not sweat. I'm like, yeah, but you were born that way. It's not a choice. It's the same thing with this balut woman. She was like, yeah, no, I do not see why people say this is a big deal. Look at it. Are you kidding me? Look at it. I know you're using the sense of taste, but use your fucking eyesight and look at that shit and be like, oh, never mind. You can quickly disprove your theory by just averting your gaze downwards, right? It's right there. It's in your hand even. It's in the palm. All your answers are in your palm. It's kind of like every time you turn on this podcast, you know that all the answers you need are right here because everything I say is true. And for that, you should leave a like on the video. Go ahead, leave a like. It'll make me feel so good. But yeah, I've never liked those people. The people that are like, oh, XYZ, ABC, 1, 2, 3 is not a big deal. And I'm like, but it's not a big deal to you. You have to understand, right? That all humans are different. You can't just go forward being like, well, everyone isn't like me, so they're wrong. Hot sauce. Movies, scary movies. Stunts, adrenaline, roller coasters. Everyone that's like, you can't get thrown off the roller coaster, right? You're strapped in. I know. It makes complete sense. Did you think I was scared of roller coasters because I was like, oh no, isn't there like a half and half chance if they like open it randomly? No, I know that they don't want you to die. That seems like a lot of paperwork. Okay? Everyone knows that human safety is only important because we don't want to do a bunch of paperwork, right? I mean, sure, a human life, whatever. But if it has you, working a couple extra hours at the job, fine, I'll save a few lives, right? That's where actually superheroes came from. Superheroes came from everyday working people that noticed a lot of fatalities on the job that they were like, okay, I'm just going to save these motherfuckers so I can save everyone else from paperwork. But then you see the Avengers destroy entire cities, and you're like, are you guys even superheroes? What the fuck? I feel like we're in more danger when you're around, right? It's like every villain's reasoning. It's like, oh, you Avengers, you superheroes, you bring more peril to this city than you save, right? It's the old chicken or the egg. Oh no. There's a really bad conversation I could have right here. But I won't say it explicitly, but I'll try to use superheroes to talk about it, where it's like, well, you superheroes cause this chaos, right? And so that spawns these villains. But then if you take away the superheroes, right? Who are the villains if they don't have any superheroes to fight? Ooh, there's a really, really bad parallel you could draw here, right? I won't do it. Never mind. Man, I don't want to get myself in trouble. So I won't. But yeah, I've never understood those people that say, oh, I can do a thing. Why can't you? I'm like, okay, do a pull-up. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, go ahead. If you and I are the same, we can handle the same. Do a fucking pull-up. Why? Do a pull. If you want me to watch fucking Scream Scream 2 and 3 and 4, or how many Scream movies? I don't fucking know. If you want me to watch Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, whatever the fuck scary movie exists, do a pull-up. God, it was a joke. It was a joke, man. I didn't mean it. No, do a fucking pull-up. If apparently all humans are fucking built the same, do a pull-up, because I can do a pull-up. Sure. I can only do a singular pull-up, but I can do that motherfucker pretty good. So do a pull-up. God, bets off, man. Bets off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. Your apology is not enough for me. I need to see you suffer. So that's all I'm saying. Next time someone's like, wow, you find this hot? Do a pull-up. Just take some really weird esoteric thing you can do and just be like, okay, then do this. Are you a fast typer? Challenge them to a fucking typing challenge. I'm a very slow typer. If I ever start getting cocky, just, tell me to type a sentence as you say it out loud. I can't do it. I absolutely can't do it. I'd be like, Gauruv, you're being ridiculous. I have like a 40, and this isn't even like, oh, you did one typing test, maybe do another. No, I've done quite a few typing tests. My typing words per minute is probably like 45 words. Like it's peak. That's like the best it can get. 45. I see all these people on social media. They're like, oh, I'm trying to go for 130. I'm like, oh, that's good for you. Do you have that many things to say on a computer? I don't. I think I'm a pretty good texter, but when it comes to a computer, the old clickety clack of the keys, 45 words per minute. That's all I got on a good day. So, yeah, next time I start being like, wow, you can't handle this hot sauce, just put a keyboard right in front of me. Now you might be like, this is weird because he's an engineer. Isn't he used to it? No. You keep your friends close and your enemies closer, okay? That's the only reason I went into engineering, because I knew I fucking can't type fast. And I was like, well, then let me just look at a keyboard every day, right? Fucking bane of my existence. Just put that shit right here. Oh. Does anyone give a shit, like, how long things have been around? I was watching this pizza review earlier this week, and this guy, I don't know what year it was, but he said some shit like, wow, look at this place. It's been around since 1890. I was like, and? What does that mean? Should I care? Should I care that something's older, right? I mean, you might be like, oh, Garb, oh, easy. No, but it's true. Even humans, we don't care after a certain age. Like, after a certain age, we don't give a fuck about people. Don't believe me? What happens? There's a certain age, and it's different for everyone. Everyone has a different measure. But there's a certain age when if you hear that someone dies, you stop asking what happened. This is a thing that was talked about on Conan's podcast. I forgot who he was talking to. I think it was Kevin Nealon. But they were talking about what is the age when you stop asking, oh, how'd they die? It's true, because there's a certain age that people hit where you're like, oh, well, yeah, their time was up. There's this old thing, right? The old saying where it's like, it's not even an old saying, but it's the whole idea that, when someone dies, there's a certain point where it's no longer tragic or it's no longer sad. Oh, it's this old thing, right? When there's a certain age that people cross, when you hear that they pass away, you say, oh, well, they had a good life. But then right before that age, they cross over, the phrasing that would be used is, oh, they were taken too soon. We lost a good one early. But there is some age where we're like, well, they got enough out of this. There's an age, it's the same, and we were instilled with it when we were young. I don't know if you did this, but when I was in elementary school, we had only a finite amount of water fountains, And when you would go up after, during, before recess to get some water at the water fountain, they had this game or this little thing you would do where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or like 1, 2, 3, save some for me. That rhymes. So it became doctrine. But yeah, we would do this thing where someone would start drinking and we go 1, 2, 3, save some for me, and you tap them on the back. And then the assholes would, right when you fucking press the button, they go, 1, 2, 3, save some for me. I'm like, hey, fucking give it a second, okay? Jesus, Jeanette. But that's what happens in life, right? With people's lives, we go 40, 50, 60. Let's hope they died peacefully or something. You know, I don't know. I just made that up. It's like, yeah, there's a certain age where we go 40, 50, 60, save some for me. And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, no, go, you can die now. You got your fix. It's the same thing with water. You've drank enough water. Move on. Let us take over. That's what people are saying about politicians, right? They're like, these old fucks. 40, 50, 60. Don't run our country's policies, you know? It's the same thing. They're like, no, you're done. You don't even need more water. You don't even need more legislation. You have your fix. Get out of here. Okay? It's the same thing that happens. And so that's why when this guy was like, oh, this pizza place has been around since 1890, I'm like, yeah, but okay. Have you seen newer pizza places? They're probably pretty sick. Maybe that's why they're new. It's cutting edge technology. Sure, 1890, you might be like, well, do you think about how they've been around so long? Garb? Maybe that's why it's so cool. They've stood the test of time. They've lived beyond their expected lifespan. They've become legends, right? But then you gotta think about hygiene, right? Like, oh, what's fucking growing in there? Like, what's really making that bread or dough rise? Is it yeast or is it some other bacteria? I don't know. You're like, what do you use? Yeast? And they're like, oh, no, we just scrape some shit off the walls. We throw it in there and it works. But I don't know. Some people, they look at something and they're like, well, this has some history to it. And I don't know. Yeah, I've been this way my entire life. I don't know if it's a bad thing or maybe it's just a thing. I've never gived a fuck. I've never gave a fuck. Yeah. Gived. Oh boy, here we go. This guy can't type or talk. Jeez. But yeah, I've never given a fuck. Like when someone's like, well, do you know that this rock, this pedestal, this monument has been here 500 years? And I'm like, okay, well, make some room for something new. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, it's had its time. 1, 2, 3. Save some for me. Okay, get the fuck out of here. Beethoven, he's overhyped, right? I feel like he lived, he's been immortalized, but it's got to make you wonder. I think Beethoven's an industry plant. I don't think he really is legit. He had rich parents, right? That's why. He's a rich kid? I don't know. I don't fucking know anything about Beethoven. Well, he obviously didn't have rich parents. They couldn't afford him hearing aids, right? He was deaf. That's the joke there. But I've never cared. I've never cared when a restaurant is like around since 1776. I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's a... Starting to make me wonder if this building was ethically built, you know? Who really built this building, huh? Is this an old Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively situation here? Should I have my wedding here? I don't know. You know? But I don't care. Some people, but that guy, he was like 1890. That's how you know it's going to be good. I'm like, yeah, that's how you know it's going to smell bad. But then the pizza ended up being good. I was like, all right, well, I guess my theory is kind of fucked now. But I don't care. I don't care. And I don't think society cares either, how old something is, right? I think as things get old, like once they cross over to old, we're like, get out of here. That's enough. Cobwebs. We always see cobwebs and we're like, okay, clean that shit up. Anything that shows sign of aging, fucking faces. We're like, put some cream on that shit, okay? I don't want to confront the idea that we're going to grow old, but it's a privilege to grow old. We used to die when we were like 17, right? Humans. Now we have this privilege to live, up to 80, 90, 100 even. Show that shit off. Nothing's better than crow's feet. I love crow's feet. Do you know what that is? It's the wrinkles you have at the edges of your eyes here. I heard this very beautiful thing. I forgot what it was. I forgot who said it, but it was the idea that when someone has crow's feet, they trusted them more because it shows that they smile and laugh with their eyes. You only get crow's feet when you smile and you laugh and your eyes close. It's a very specific smile. It's a very specific laugh, and it's very from the heart. And so when someone has crow's feet, you can tell they're a very happy person because they're laughing or smiling so much that that part of their body is getting used, and you get these little crow's feet. Or it just means they're due for Botox, whatever. But I think it's a privilege to grow old. I think it's a privilege to age. I think you can age with grace. Unless you're a pizza place, then you age with grease. Man, that was just free. But no. And then we look at young things, we talk about young things with, I thought it was a terrible joke. But we look at, we always say like smooth as a baby's butt. I'm like, why would you want to be like a baby's butt? Isn't that thing always covered in shit? Babies are always shitting themselves, right? Why do we always say clean, like smooth as a baby's butt? I don't want to, like, sure, maybe it's smooth, but like, it's also covered in feces. Ooh. Why do we keep talking about that like it's a good thing? That's weird. But it's like an endearing thing. You can't call someone young as an insult unless you're old. And then it doesn't even matter that it's an insult because the person that said it was old. So who gives a fuck what they say? Oh, you're too young. You wouldn't understand. All right, you old piece of shit. Why don't you go back to your retirement home, okay? Isn't your morning walk fucking over? Isn't it your bedtime? It's 2 p.m. Isn't it time for supper? But you can't insult a young person. You can't be like, oh, look how much energy you have. Oh, look how much existential dread you lack. You don't know that much about the world, so you're genuinely happy, loser. No, you never hear that shit. It's so hard to be like mean to a young person. Even, interns, like young people in the job, they always get a free pass. It's like, oh, well, you're young. You'll learn. And I think it's justified. I think it's right. But what you have to realize is that adults are just grown-up kids. No one actually knows what the fuck they're doing. We're so hard on old people, but maybe that's why they die. You ever think about that? Maybe the reason people die isn't because their bodies have given out. It's just that we think, we don't believe in them anymore. Young people, we only wish them the best, right? We're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? We have so much hopefulness and so much, there's a very dreamy nature to a young life. We're like, look at you, you have your whole life ahead of you. But with old people, you're like, hey, tap, tap. I want to put my mouth on the faucet. Okay, get the fuck out of here. You've had enough water. Leave. With old people, we're like, you have any advice for us? We never ask old people, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because it's like, nope, they did. They already did. They grew up and now they're done growing up. They're going down even. You ever see that? Old people, they like shrink. I've heard that. Like their skeleton is like, I'm turning into nothing here. When you're young, you eat fruits and veggies to grow big. When you're old, you eat fruits and veggies so you don't die. Your body is conspiring against you, and you just eat fruits and veggies to stop that conspiracy. Fruits and veggies for old people are essentially putting a tinfoil hat on your heart, It's keeping all that bad juju out. And it's sad. It's sad to see the narrative around old people. But it makes sense too, right? Because you ever go to the holidays and you talk to the grandparents and then they start saying some wacky shit and you're like, uh oh. Man. It's like, it seems like the only redeemable thing you bring to the table is like maybe a pizza recipe, right? uh, because you've been around a while, right? That's always crazy, right? You ever meet like a grandparent, older person? You're like, what's your opinion on this food? And they're like, I never tried it. I'm like, you never tried a mango? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you gonna do that before you get off the ride? And they're like, I don't know, maybe. I'm like, that's not a thing you want to try? And they're like, well, it's a fruit. I can probably guess what it's like. I'm like, no, you gotta try that shit. Mangoes are dope. But they don't do it. They don't do it. But then there crosses over, I keep talking about no one gives a shit about old people. No, there crosses over a very, very small grace period. There crosses over a period, during the holidays when an adult is like working, and this is when you got to be like, uh-oh, what does this mean for me? You ever see that? Like a grandparent at a holiday, they're like in the kitchen cooking, and then, some other adults come in, they're a little younger. They're the younger generation. They go, hey, 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 no, no, hey, stop. You go in the living room, chill out. We'll take care of this. That's the middle-aged man's burden. You've heard of the white man's burden, right? Where they go to like other countries and they're like, well, I'm the white man. I can save these people. You got the middle-aged man's burden where they go to kitchens and say, hey, you're too old. I can do this. But who better to julienne onions than an old person? Because they've been doing it for so long, right? Let them julienne those onions. I don't even know what the fuck julienning onions is. Why don't they mort onions, huh? Why don't they Maurice onions? I don't know, but they choose to julienne them. King's preference, I suppose. But it's interesting, the relationship between young and old. And then there's that awkward middle area. Adults, apparently now I fall into that category of being an adult. And it is, I was just telling someone today, it is a fucking, and I'm not saying this about my situation and everyone's situation. I've just observed that overall, the adult stage of life is a lonely, boring place. So many people are so fucking boring and so fucking sad. And it's so sad to watch. Last week, by the way, as I talked about the guy proposing in Ultra Boost, I just want to revisit that because I was all over the place last week. I figured it out. I was watching that episode back because I was editing it. And I realized what the point I was trying to make was when you have a wedding, when you're going to propose, it's such a thought out thing. It's so like, so much thought goes into it. You got to think about this is the ring, this is the place, this is how I'm going to, make sure we get there on this specific date. This is who's going to take the picture. I got to make sure just by happenstance, my partner has their nails done so the pictures turn out well. Make sure they're wearing a nice enough outfit to where they'll be like happy and like, oh my God, I'm so glad this is happening today because these pictures are going to look so great. I got a fresh mani, I got a nice blouse on. This is good. This is going to be so great to show all the family and friends. There's so much thought that goes into a proposal. But then the shoes that this guy wore were the shoes you just pick when you are by the front door and you're like, fucking Ultra Boost. I'll just take those real quick. That's what was so funny to me. Is that a proposal is such a thought out thing. It's such a like, it's not just, you don't just slip up and go, whoa, will you marry me? And it's like, even though every fucking guy in public at like Disney theme parks and shit, they always do that thing where they're like acting like they tie their shoe and they're like, oh, this is the funniest thing in the world. And, their partner's like, stop it. Oh my God, get up. You're embarrassing. God, I hate people. I Uh, yeah, you can't just slip up and accidentally get married, right? I have a bad joke for that. Never mind. But it's such a thought out thing. So that's what was so crazy to me, the juxtaposition between the shoes and the situation. Because Ultra Boost are like, ah, shit, I gotta take the trash out real quick. And I listed examples last week where it's like you're cleaning up dog shit, you're taking the trash out real quick, or you're just running to the store, you grab Ultra Boost. With the proposal, like, I'm sure he picked out the outfit, right? So then it just makes me wonder, like, why didn't you do boots? Right? You thought about this one going into it. Why'd you go Ultra Boost? Ultra Boosts are like, oh, you got in the car and you look down, you're like, oh my god, I forgot to wear shoes. Let me go inside and pick the first pair I see. And then he came out in Ultra Boost. That's what was so crazy to me. Is that a proposal is such like a ceremonial thing, like I said. It's such a thought out, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna end up there, this is exactly how it's gonna go. But the shoe wear was just like, okay. You know? It's kind of like the what is it? The conclusion of a high schooler's essay. They spend so much time in the body paragraphs, and then you look at the conclusion, you look at the bottom, you look at their shoes, and you're like, oh, you didn't spend very much time on this, did you? Oh, you forgot about this part, didn't you? You forgot this was part. Okay, yeah. No, you had to include that. You need to wear shoes. You need to have a conclusion, and yeah, I can see you didn't spend much time on that, did you? Well, maybe if you read the instructions, maybe if you thought about this more than 2 months before you made a lifelong commitment, you would have made a better decision. But that was the point I was trying to make. Now I'm not sick anymore. I can think about it clearly. And I did a little walking in my Ultra Boost. Yet I didn't propose to anyone. And that's because I'm waiting till marriage to go on my first date. Anyways, I hope you're staying warm. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. And I know it's a little premature, but happy holidays. And yeah, thank you for listening. And I will talk to you next week. Okay? Bye.